Hey everybody, this is Donnie with Pvgna.com, and thank you for tuning back in today. Today's video is going to be just a quick one about the hotkeys and settings that I personally use when I play Dota. We've gotten this question a number of times in the comment section, and so I just wanted to cover it. And I think that, whether you are a new or old player of Dota, a lot of us have habits if you're an older player of what your hotkeys are from previous games, and if you're a new player, you may just be using the default set or whatever. Maybe you don't even know that you can change all of your hotkeys, but I just wanted to quickly go over what I use and what I think is important to experiment with and change, and hopefully you can learn something from this video. Because I know every time I look at the hotkeys, I'm like, whoa, you can do that? You can bind that? That's cool. So here's my hotkeys. I think that abilities are the most important, and I would build my hotkeys surrounding the abilities because you're using these all the time, or you should be at the very least if you're playing Dota. So I just use the standard current Dota 2 default hotkeys. I know from Dota 1, I used to play it as well. There were different hotkeys for various heroes, and I think that's just too much complexity when you're trying to do a bunch of stuff in quick succession and playing different heroes from game to game. I'd like them all to just be simple, the same thing. So I just use Q, W, E, D, F, and R. And I do use quick cast. I think that everybody should absolutely experiment with quick cast and give it 10 to 15 games before you decide one way or the other whether you want to use it or not. I did not use quick cast until about 2 years ago, and I started using it because I was missing skills like Rupture from Bloodseeker, for example. If I were to press R and then click on the hero with my mouse, it would usually be a little bit too late and people would be in the fog of war by that point, and I would get animation canceled and not get the Rupture off. So now all I have to do is just quickly put my mouse over it and press the button, as opposed to pressing the button and then clicking on the hero. And that has allowed me to, I think at least, miss less skills that require a split-second reaction time. And so I personally love quick cast. I think it's really, really useful, at least for your abilities, and everybody should definitely try it out. I know there's a lot of pros that swear by using quick cast, at least for certain heroes, and I think that it's pretty useful for most of them. So after abilities, we have items, and these item slots are pretty specific for me. Space is where my thumb naturally rests. I'm going to put a picture, should be right here, that will show you how I have my hand when I'm playing. And so space is where my thumb naturally rests. I put my most important item, which is usually a blink dagger, in space. It just works the best for me to quickly combo that with my other keys as well as my mouse. So space is where my most important item always goes. X is going to be probably the third most important item. If you look at your hand, if you're resting on Q, W, E, and R, and you curl your fingers down, you have S, D, and F right below that. D and F are obviously used for these other abilities, at least in my setup, and S is used to animation or spell cancel. So I couldn't have bound any of those ones. So the next row below that, if you just continue curling your fingers down, is X, C, and V, and you can see 3 of those right here, and then B is right next to V as well. So that's just kind of the most logical place for me to put my active items, is just a quick curl of my fingers away. And I usually rate most important item, second most important item, third most important item. I usually have TP scroll or boots of travel on B, just because that's the farthest away, and I'm usually just kind of double tapping that, or actively thinking about doing that, and it doesn't have to be a spur of the moment decision to use it. V is generally going to be something like, I don't know, a dust or a BKB, just because I can quickly press it and then kind of forget about it, or refresh an orb or something like that. And then mouse 5, I generally put my like phase boots or blade mail. I can also put a dust or BKB or something that I need to access really quickly right here. And what this allows me to do is, like, if I'm playing Axe, I can quickly blink with space and a location, followed by pressing W to call, and then as I'm calling, at the same time, I can press my mouse 5. So my mouse has 2 buttons on the side where my thumb where my thumb is. I'll show a picture of that. I have obviously 2 regular clicking buttons on a mouse, and then I have 2 other buttons that I don't use for Dota because they're kind of in an uncomfortable space for me to press quickly, and I would have to take one of my fingers off of the clicking, and I don't want to do that. I do use the mouse wheel for courier stuff, which I'll explain in just a second. But I do think that if you have a mouse with buttons, I think that you can get creative with what you use them for, as long as they're comfortable for your hands and you don't have to, make massive moves with your finger positioning at a moment's notice to actually hit them. So then as far as my unit actions, I have select hero as 1. I used to play a lot of RTSs in StarCraft, Brood War, Warcraft 3, and my days of controlling a lot of units are kind of behind me, so I probably won't be playing Meepo anytime soon. I don't really like the hero, I don't like how it functions, and I just don't really want to deal with controlling 5 heroes that I don't really care about. So I just have set up select hero as 1. All control units is 2. So I find that this is really useful if I'm playing anti-mage or Lycan or something that has just a couple units and I want to do something different with them. So if you want to split push, you just press Manta and then 2, and then you A-click down a lane, and that will select all of your units. So actually, what this does is this controls all controlled units. So the best example would be anti-mage. You want to blink, Manta, Abyssal Blade, and then everybody hits that target. So if you blink and then you Abyssal Blade somebody, then all I have to do is after Manta just press 2, and then my anti-mage and both of his illusions will follow the same action. If I do want them to do something else, I will then bind those units that I want to do other stuff to control group 3. So I do use 1 control group, which is number 3, and then my courier is on number 4. So those are all easily accessible keys. And control group 3 could also be like a Helm of the Dominator creep or something like that. So as far as the courier goes, what I do is I have them on 4, and then the most common thing that I use this for is that I press 4 and then I have mouse wheel down. So if I just actually wheel the mouse down, it instantly picks up all the items from the stash on the courier, or sends the courier to go get those items. And then I actually have wheel up set to speed boost. And so if I want to just, I'm in the middle of something, I'll press 4 and then wheel down, wheel up, and then my items will fly to me quickly. Obviously, you have to figure out when's the best time to use speed boost sometimes, but if it's just I need my item quickly right now, that's what I do. It's really fast, really easy. As far as communication stuff, I do want to go over this real quick because I think that this is some of the more important stuff, communicating with your team in a team game. So phrases, I just have care, or careful, get back, and help. You can alt-click all of the missing heroes, so I think these are kind of useless. I don't think that you really need to, and most of the other stuff, I use voice comms all the time, so I don't think you need to bind all this stuff. I don't like ever putting needs wards because I think most people just take it as a really negative connotation these days. So if you're just like need wards, most supports will get kind of upset that you're demanding that there are wards, even though that might be part of their job. So these ones I use pretty regularly, just as sort of like, hey, heads up guys, be careful. I would recommend getting back, or I might need help. So then if we go back to the regular hotkeys, my chat wheel, which I have taken quite a bit of time actually to making, and with all the extra sound bites, I've had a little bit of fun doing this. I use affirmative a lot. If somebody says, hey, I need you here, give them an affirmative so that they know I'm coming. I want to use your shrine. This is just a really quick, like, yes, cool. It serves enough purposes to where I think it's worth having on my chat wheel. Don't give up, I find to be the most untilting way of saying, like, relax, everything's fine, because there is no real like emotional attachment to just don't give up. It's sort of like a logical, okay, just don't give up, everything's fine. So that's just my personal preference. And then if anything bad happens, I use my sad trombone to make everybody feel like you know, it is just a game. It's going to be okay. So, you know, I use this one pretty regularly. Don't give up, sad trombone, back to back is the way to go. Now, if I didn't have all these sound bites, I would probably have a few other things like be right back, or I'm retreating, or follow me might be good, or group up. Those kind of things. I don't necessarily think that you need to like destroy the barracks and then get back, because I would much rather just say that over voice communication. Although I suppose that might be a fairly useful one. But, you know, stuff like there's a Zeus alt now. There's no point in having that on your chat wheel, just because how many games are you going to play where there's going to be a Zeus out of all the games that you're going to play? So you have to be fairly, you know, efficient with what you put here. And I personally just have a lot of Chinese and Russian things that make me feel hype when I'm hype. So like, I think is a great hype one. I also use this one when somebody does, you know, like a great play. I'm getting all hyped for them with those two. To acknowledge things or things that I think are funny, I'll just use this one. Or that one might be my favorite one out of all of them. But anyway, so that's just my communication with chat wheel and phrases. And then as far as the other options, let's just check advanced hotkeys real quick. I edge pan with my camera. I think that's just my personal preference. I move my mouse, you know, around the screen. I don't actually control the camera with my keys. I think that's too much of moving my hand away from my skills and abilities and items. And then as far as these keys, the only really important ones are, I think patrol is pretty useful if you have controlled units or illusions that you want to go in various places repeatedly to maybe run into people. That's what Weehaw used to do to block choke points against smokes, so you could see if somebody was coming. You would just patrol between one spot and another, and that allows you to, you know, just have basically moving wards if you wanted to as well with illusions. And then cancel action, I think, is very important if you want to get better at last hitting, or, you know, not whiffing spells. You can cancel those with cast animation to re-aim them. And I also use this to stop TPs. I think that's kind of important as well, just because all the time back in the day, before I had set my teleport requires hold stop, I would teleport to a fight with Boots of Travel or something like that and prepare to blink and use spells, and then if it was a longer TP than I was expecting, then I would end up using my skills while I was still TPing and cancel my TP, and then that would, you know, totally ruin what I was trying to do. And so I use that S key all the time. As far as taunt and glyph, I mean, taunt is pretty important, obviously. Glyph is just somewhere that I'm not going to hit by accident, but is pretty close to the rest of my fingers. And then as far as the shop, I have that over on comma because I don't want that opening in the middle of a fight, because it's a very large piece of my field of view and it just should be accessible but not in the way. Other than that, I use quick cast on key down. I guess you can set it on key up as well, but to me it just makes the most sense to just press the button and then it works. And double tap ability to self cast, I think, is pretty like self-explanatory and pretty useful as well if you're playing like a Bloodseeker or something that you need to buff constantly, Magnus, something like that. Being able to just do it quickly is pretty useful as well. As far as my options, I just really want to talk about the mini-map for the most part. I think that using simple mini-map is not very good. Like, you can actually see how much the mini-map changes and shifts around, and I don't like that at all. I'd much rather have the most information possible at all times in a game of Dota. So I want to see where the trees are. I want to see, you know, everything that I can on the mini-map, because I spend a lot of time looking at it while I'm playing. And then, so I also don't have the hero icons showing up. I think if you do have the hero icons showing up, you're making a mistake, because they do not show, it doesn't show which direction any of these heroes are facing. So I think that is like pretty pay to lose, honestly. If you have that option enabled, you really want to be able to see where heroes are facing, and especially, you know, like, you want to know where this Enigma is facing and where it's going to be, because that's an important hero. So holding Alt is another thing that I think is really important. You should absolutely have the tower range and spawn box range clicked on. I use this all the time. If you are harassing somebody and they are retreating to their tower and you are not holding Alt to see exactly where the tower range starts, then you will likely take a couple of tower hits and make your trade that might have been a good trade completely inefficient. So I use this all the time. Same thing goes for neutral spawn boxes when you're trying to stack or ward and you don't want to block them, or find a ward that is blocking a camp. This is extremely useful. And then other than that, like I said, I use edge pan, and this is my camera speed. This is all super personal stuff. That's just based off of my mouse and the DPI on my mouse and what feels comfortable to me. I basically just want to be able to control my camera by, you know, flicking my wrist around the screen, but not having it fly super far across the map, because if it's too slow, then you can't catch people and you can't see what you want to see in time. But if it's too fast, then you try to look at something quickly and you end up looking somewhere you totally don't really need to be looking at that moment. So that's my camera control. Other than that, I think that is pretty much it. I just, you know, have all this stuff. That's just personal preferences, and we'll look at audio real quick. I have voice chat. I use voice comms a lot. Like I said, I have it set to mouse 4, and that is just another button on my mouse right next to my important item button that allows me to talk in the middle of fights without having to move my hand away from my abilities or items or targeting with my mouse. And so that is just a very convenient way for me to always be able to communicate when I need to. And then as far as video, I built myself a new computer recently, so I'm enjoying Dota looking like a pretty nice graphical game. So hope that helped you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. There will be a couple more videos coming out soon. We also have much more in-depth hotkey and option videos on Pvgna.com if you want to get like really into the nitty-gritty of what each setting does. We have a video that does go over every single one of those, as well as like Chessie has shown his, and Slasher has shown his, and just various other hotkeys and settings that people use that are their own personal preferences. And so thank you again for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video, and good luck. Have fun, everybody. See you soon.